Okay, so welcome guys to this channel named Gaurav Kumar Jain, and today we are going to code this Walkie Talkie app, which couple of months back I posted on my YouTube channel. Okay, so this is the first screen, and the way we designed the screens for that login system. In the same way, I've designed a screen for this one also. This login screen which you're seeing, I have designed this screen in the same way. The way I showed you how to design login system and how to design screens for that app which we developed in the previous lecture. That is two-way communication system, right? In the same way you can develop this beautiful screen also. So now there are three components which are there on this screen. This is the photo select component with which the user can select his photograph, whatever photo you want to select, and then here this is an input box which you are seeing over here. So here the user is required to enter his email address, and then this one the user is required to enter his password. Once he is done with inputting the required things for all these three fields, he can hit this login button, and automatically he is going to get redirected on this beautiful screen 3. Fine. Now let's code this thing first. After that we are going to come on this screen and we'll see how we have designed this screen, how can we design this screen, and also what is the code that we have to define in this workspace for this particular image button on which you are seeing this beautiful GIF animated image. So let's come on this screen 1 first. Now there is a button over here with ID login, so we will define the code for this button. Now the idea of this button is login, so we need to convert it into block based coding first, and from this first drop down let's select login. Here I go. Okay, now when the user will hit this login button, I would like a table named users to get created, in which three informations which the user is going to input through these three components should get saved. So for doing that, we can come on this data tab of this toolbox and we can make use of this create record block, right? This is going to create a table like structure on the data browser connected to this app. Okay, and let's convert it into text based coding. I'm going to change the name of the table to users. Okay, and let's define all the three fields over here. So the first thing is going to be the email address of the user, and the second thing is going to be the password which the user is going to use for creating his profile, and the third thing is going to be the photograph of the user, right? Now from where can we get the value of this email field? We can get it very easily using this get text property, and the user is going to input his email address over here in this field. So that is the reason we need to write down the ID of this field over here in between these two double inverted commas, and let's copy this whole thing and put it over here. Okay, now the ID of this input box is password, so I'm going to replace this email with password like this. And now from where can I get the photograph of the person? So he can upload his photograph from here. Now the photograph is going to get uploaded. Once the photograph will get uploaded over here, so you can make use of this get image URL block for getting the URL address of the photograph which the user is going to select from his device. Okay, so get image URL is the code that we can make use of for getting the URL. URL means uniform resource locator. So every image and everything has a unique address, or you can say name. Fine. So in order to get the URL of that photograph, we can make use of this get image URL, and in between these two double inverted commas we are going to place the name of this photo select component. So the ID of this one is photo. Let's do that. Okay, fine. So now when the user will hit this login button, a table with name users is going to get created, in which we'll get to see these three columns: email, password, and photo. Now besides that, let's make it somewhat interactive by adding a Playspeech block to this uneven block over here. So I would like to hear something like this. Your account has been successfully created. So the user is going to hear this thing from the background, and as soon as the user is done with creating his profile on this platform, I would like him to get redirected on this beautiful screen 3. So for doing that, we can make use of this set screen block, which you can easily find in the UI controls part of this toolbox. So let's pick it from here, and I'm going to drop it inside this uneven block, and let's change this 1 to 3. Okay, so I'm done with defining the required code for that login button. Now let's talk about this screen 3. So you know how I have designed this screen 3. So this is an image button which you're seeing over here. Okay, now on this image button, this is a GIF image which I have imported in this Applab. Now from where I've got this GIF image, I have searched for this GIF image on Google. Now what you can type over here in the search bar of Google for getting that kind of image. So you can type something like this: Walkie Talkie GIF animated clip art. Okay, and when you'll come in this images section, you will get to see some beautiful images like this, which you guys can make use of for your Walkie Talkie app. Now this is also one of the beautiful images that you can make use of for this screen 3. Okay, then we have this image. Okay, again it is a very beautiful GIF animated image which you can make use of for that screen 3. Then this is also a very beautiful image. Alright, so it's totally up to you what image you want to select and how do you want your app should look like. Fine, this is also a very good image you can make use of. Alright, now there are two persons in this image who are talking to each other. So if you want, you guys can go for this one also. Fine, so you just have to right click on this image and save it with a unique name on your desktop. And once you are done with that, you can make use of the choose option. Let me just show it to you practically. So let's save it with a unique name on the desktop. So I'm saving it with Walkie. Okay, and now if you want to import it on this Applab, on this mobile simulator screen, so you have to first select this image button you have on this screen. Okay, and then you can make use of this choose button. Let's hit this choose button, see what's going to happen. So we are going to come across this beautiful assets library of Applab, and here we will see that upload button getting reflected right in the bottom somewhere of this window. Let's check it out. And whatever you guys are learning, please do it practically. Until or unless you'll do it on your own, you will not be able to understand these things. Okay, so you just have to hit this upload file button, and automatically it is going to redirect you to one of the locations present on your device. Now okay, I am on my desktop right now, so I have saved that image with this name. Okay, this is the one. Let's hit this open button. So it is going to get uploaded over here, and now I can hit this choose button. See, this image is getting reflected over here on this screen. Okay, so that's how you can save some image from Google on your device, and then you can import the same on your screen. Okay, for now I am using this one. Fine. Now when the user will hit this image button over here, I would like him to get redirected on this screen 2. Right, so let's define the code for that first. Coming back on screen 3, let's make use of this uneven block. I'm going to place it over here. Okay, I'm placing it over here, and let's now define the ID of this button in place of this ID. So the ID of this button is image 8. I am replacing this ID with image 8. Now when the user will hit this image 8, I would like him to get redirected on this screen 2. So for doing that, we can make use of this set screen block. Let's copy this whole code and put it over here. Now we need to replace this 3 with 2. Okay, so now when the user will hit this screen image 8, he's going to come on this screen 2. Besides this, as soon as the user will come on this screen, I would like him to see his profile pic, whatever pic he has uploaded while creating his profile on this platform. I would like him to see that profile pic to get reflected over here, and also I would like to see his email ID getting reflected over here in this input box. How can we make it possible? The information is there in this user's named table, right? Whatever information he saved, whatever information he uploaded on this app, it is there on this in this user's named table. So we guys can make use of this read records block to fetch the records from that users table. Now I'm going to replace this my table with users. Okay, so when the user will hit this what we call image button 8, he's going to come on this screen too. Besides, if we want him to see his profile pic over here and his ID over here, what we can do, we can eliminate, first of all we need to eliminate everything from here in whatever was there inside that for loop. Okay, and now we can make use of for getting his image reflected over here. We guys can make use of set image URL, right? So where is that set image URL? This is the one, so I'm going to place it over here. Okay, now the ID of this image button is user image. And from where can I get the image URL? So I can get it from this column named photo, which is there inside this user's named table. So I need to eliminate this whole thing from here, and let's replace this thing with records I dot photo. Okay, and how can we get the ID of this person over here in this input box? So for doing that, we can make use of this set text block, because we are trying to set the text for this input box, right? Now the ID of this input box is user email, so let's make it user email. And besides that, let's make use of this code and put it over here like this. Now where are the IDs getting saved? So the IDs in this table are getting saved in this email named column. So in order to fetch the email ID of the person, we can replace this with email. Okay, now if suppose there are more than 2, 3 or 5 people who have created their profile on this platform, now how will it be possible for the fourth or the third person to see his profile pic over here? Because this whole code is going to traverse through all the records which will be there in that users named table. But I would like this user, suppose my email ID is jangora126@gmail.com. So whoever has registered with this ID and whatever photo and password he has mentioned over here, I would like that person to see his photograph getting reflected on this image button. How can we make it possible? We can make it possible just by placing a check on this email field, because email is working as a primary key right now. Alright, no two people can have same email IDs. Okay, so let's get the email address from where we can get it very easily from this component which is there on screen 1. So the ID of this email component is email. So let's put email over here. Okay, now this person will be able to see his own photograph and his own email ID getting reflected over here in these components. Fine, so we are done with defining the code for this image button. Let's now come on this screen 2. Okay, now if suppose there are 5 different people who have their profile on this platform or on this app which we are creating. Okay, Now how can we get the IDs of all those 5 people reflected over here? How can we get the IDs of all the 5 people getting reflected as in the option section of this drop down? That's what we are going to check out. So for doing that, what we can do, we can make use of this on even block again, and we need to place it over here right in the bottom. Now the idea of this drop down is drop down 1, so we need to replace it with drop down 1. When the user will hit this drop down 1, what should happen? All the IDs should be fetched from this user's named table, and everything should get reflected in the as in options in this drop down. So for doing that, the best way is to make use of this read records block. Let's come in this data table, data part of the toolbox, and pick this read records block. I am going to place it inside this on even block. Now we would like to fetch the data from the users named table. So that is the reason we need to replace this my table with users. Okay, and now see, because we want, what we are trying to do here, we are trying to fetch more than one records from a particular table present on the data browser in one go. So if you are doing something like that, we need to make use of list type of variable. So this time I am going to make use of let's define this a variable named email, and then we can make it a list type of variable just by putting these two brackets and a colon semicolon after this, right? So now it is a list type of variable. Now what do you mean by a list type of variable? In which you can store a number of items, right? Okay, now the second thing that we need to do is we need to append all the email IDs which are there in this users named table to this email named variable. For the best way of doing it is we can make use of this append item property. So append item. Now let's append all the items to this email named component, email named variable. And from where can we get the email IDs? We can get it easily from this code. Okay, we are done with appending all the email IDs to this list type of variable. Now how can we get all the email IDs reflected in the options section of this drop down? So for doing that, the best way is to make use of set property block. Okay, you just have to type set property over here, then write down the name of this drop down first. So the name of this drop down is drop down 1. Let me help you guys with this code using the block based coding. Okay, with that I think you will be able to understand it in a more better way. So I'm going to pick that set property block from this UI controls panel. Where is that set property? Okay, this is the one. So I am going to put it right after the point where this for loop is ending. So the for loop is ending at this point, right, on line number 31. And from this first drop down, I'm going to select the ID of this drop down. So it is drop down 1. And now what we are trying to do, we are trying to set the options for this drop down, right? So we need to select options in this second drop down, and let's convert it into text based coding. Now in this third part, we need to replace everything with this component, with this variable, because all the IDs are there stored in this email named variable, right? Okay, so now it is going to give us all the IDs over here in this drop down 1. Now comes the next question. I don't want to see the ID which is going to get reflected over here in this drop down. If suppose I am using this app and I am on this screen too, I would not like to see my ID getting reflected over here in this drop down. How can we make it possible? So for doing that, what we can do, we can make use of if loop. We can put a check on this thing. How can we put a check on this thing. See, if records dot email, because this is the code which is going to fetch for us all the email IDs, right? So if it is not equal to the ID which is going to get reflected over here, so the how can we get the ID from this component? We can make use of get text block, right? Now the ID of this component is user email, so we need to write down user email in between these two double inverted commas. So if the IDs which are present, if none of the IDs which are present in this user's name table are equal to this ID which is getting reflected over here, so I would like all the IDs to get appended to this email named list variable. Okay, so that's how you can put a validation on that thing. You can define a condition over here using this if loop, and this is going to give you the right output. Now if you have suppose saved your profile with something like jjj@gmail.com, so you will not be able to see your ID in the options section of this dropdown. Okay, fine. Now this person would like to communicate something to a person whose ID he is going to select from this dropdown. Fine. So how can he do that? For doing that, what we can do, we can again define an uneven block over here. Now this time I am going to define this uneven block for this beautiful image which you are seeing right in the middle of this screen. So the ID of this image button is image 4. Okay, and how can you, sorry, so I'm going to replace this ID with image 4. Now how can you get this beautiful image which you're seeing over here? You just have to type people with computer, mobile, GIF, animated, clip art. If you'll type something like this in this Google Images, these are some of the beautiful images you're going to come across. So if you guys want, you can go for this one also. This is also very beautiful image, right? And if you guys, this is a GIF animated image. It is loading right now. Maybe it is a little bit heavy, so it's taking time. Fine. So see, these are some of the beautiful images you guys can make use of for giving an appealing look to your app. Okay, then this is also a very good image you guys can make use of, right? So that's how you can get such images. Okay, now I'm going to define the code for this image button. So when after writing the message over here in this message box, see, the user has to first select the ID of that person whom he would like to deliver a message. Okay, so how can he do that? He just have to hit this drop down and he can select any of the IDs, any one of those IDs which are going to get reflected in this drop down. Once he is done with that, he need to hit this image 4 button in order to send the message which he is going to type over here in this message box. Now whatever message he will type over here, I would like that to first get stored in a table like structure on the data browser connected to this app. For doing that, we can come on this data tab of this toolbox and let's make use of this create record block, because this is the only way with which we can create the records in the form of a table on data browser. Now so a table name message is going to get created. Now what are the different things I would like to save in this message named table? So the first thing that I would like to save is the sender's email ID, then it is the receiver's email ID, and then the message which the sender would like to send to the receiver. Fine, so these are the 3 things which I would like to save in this message named table. Now from where can I get the value for this field? I need to type get text over here. right? Now the ID of the sender is going to, I can get it from here, from this component, right? So I can easily do this with the help of this code. Okay, let's copy this whole thing and put it over here. Now from where can I get the ID of this receiver? I can get it from this drop down one. So let's replace this with drop down one. And from where can I get the value of this message part? I can get it very easily from this component, right? The ID of which is message box. Absolutely correct. Okay, let me just verify it. Yes, it is message box. We can come in this on this design panel, and let's copy the ID of this component from here and place it over here in between these two double inverted commas. Okay, so in this way the user will be able to save the message on the data browser connected to this app. Now once he is done with hitting this image4 button, whatever he has written over here, I would like that to go disappear. So for doing that, we can make use of this set text block, which you can easily find in the UI controls tab of this toolbox. Okay, so the ID of this component is message box, where he is going to type the message. We can copy it from here and place it in place of this ID over here. Okay, so everything I would like to go disappear, so that's how I can do it. I can pass a null value for the text part of this message box. Now in order to make it more interactive, we can add a sound to this uneven block. So there are two options. Either you can go for this play sound block. It is totally your call. If you want to go for this one, you can make use of this. If you want to make use of this play speech, you can make use of this. I prefer play speech over play sound because, you know, for me it is much cool as in comparison to play sound. Okay, so you successfully sent your message. So this whole text is going to get converted in the form of a speech, and this user, the sender is will be able to hear this message from the background, right? Now let's talk about how the receiver will receive the message. Suppose if the receiver would want to receive the message, now what he can do, he can make use of let's say this button, this label 3. Okay, so I'm going to make use of this uneven block again. I'm putting it over here. Now the ID of this component is label 3. Let's replace this ID with label 3. Okay, now when the user will hit this label 3, I would like to fetch, first of all, we would like to fetch the data from this message named table. You know, whatever message a particular user has sent to this user, fine, he needs that, this user needs to select the ID of that person first from this drop down, and when he, after selecting the ID of that person in this drop down, when he will hit this label box, I would like the message sent by this user, he should be able to hear that message in the form of speech. Right now the message is saved in the form of text in this table named message. Okay, now whatever message the user has sent to this person whose ID is going to get reflected over here to the sender, I would like the sender to hear that message in the form of speech. How can we make that happen? How can we make it possible? So, the best way of doing that is, let's go step by step. So first of all, we would like to fetch that message which this user whose ID this sender person is going to select from this drop down. Okay, we would like to fetch that message first from this message box, from this message name table. For doing that, again, we will be requiring this read records block. I'm going to place it over here inside this uneven block. Now the ID of this table is message, right? We need to replace this my table with message. Now here, the first thing that we have to check is the sender part, who has sent the message. Okay, we have to check that first. So we can make use of this if loop, right? Now if records I dot sender is equal to, now this time the sender's ID is going to we can get this sender ID from here, right? We need to match this sender's part from this ID which the user is going to select from this drop down, because now we are talking about the receiver's panel. Okay, so for the receivers panel, this thing, the ID which the person is going to select in this drop down, that is going to be the sender's ID. So we need to match this sender's part with this ID. How can we get the ID from this drop down? We can make use of this get text block. Now if the sender's ID matches with the one which is getting reflected over here, which is going to get reflected over here, or you can say which this user is going to select from this drop down, fine, if they both match with each other, and so it is a logical operator, as you guys very well know about. So we need to copy this whole thing now, and we can place it just next to this and logical operator. Besides, we would like to match the receiver's ID also. Now if the sender is this person and the receiver is this person, okay, so the ID of this component is user email. We need to replace this with user email. Fine, then only I would like to hear the message in the form of speech. Now first of all, the issue is how can we fetch the message sent by this sender to this receiver. So we can get it very easily using this records I dot message, right? We can get it very easily using this code. But the thing is, how can we convert it into text-based speech in the form of speech? How can we convert this message in the form of speech? So for doing that, the best way is to make use of this Playspeech block, which you can easily find in this UI controls part of the toolbox. Let's place it over here in between, inside this if loop, sorry, and we are going to copy this whole thing. Let's cut it, okay, and this we are going to replace this whole thing with that code that we just copied. So this is now going to get converted in the form of speech, right? Okay, let's check out this code now, whether it is going to give us the right output or not. So I am going to run this on two different browsers. Fine, I'm done with copying the code. I hope you guys are enjoying this lecture. If you are really enjoying, do like and share this video in your group so that more and more students can come and join the channel and learn to code free of cost. Besides, don't forget to save the water. Please don't waste water unnecessarily. Okay, so I am going to run it on these two browsers first, and after that I am going to show you something using this third browser. So you have to assume as if this is the first device, this one is the second device, this one is the third device, right? Okay, let's create a profile first. So I'm going to hit this image button, and it is going to redirect me on one of the locations that is there on my device. Okay, so I'm on my desktop right now. Let's see if I have any image on my desktop. So I am selecting this one for now because I don't have any other image, right? And here I am going to put an email ID. So I am placing my daughter's email ID over here. Okay, Nivi123 is a password. Let's hit this login button. Okay, so we are here on this.
Your account has been successfully created.
And you can very well here that the account has got successfully created. Now let's hit this screen and see what's gonna happen. Okay, so we are here on this beautiful screen and we are able to see the ID as well as the profile pic which we just uploaded for this ID getting reflected over here. Now let's create one more profile on this platform. So I need to hit this camera button. It is going to redirect me on this desktop, and from here I'm selecting this pic, and here I am going to use this ID. Okay, and this is a password I'm using. Let's hit this login button.
Your account has been successfully created.
Your account has been successfully created. Let's hit this image button and see what's gonna happen. So the profile pic is getting reflected over here and the ID is also getting reflected over here. Now let's see what is going to happen if I will hit this drop down present right on the top of this screen. Okay, so I'm able to see Nilu's ID getting reflected over here, right? But I'm not able to see this Nivi's ID. Remember, we placed an if loop for this thing, right? We have defined an if loop for this thing in this workspace of Applab. Let's set this drop down. So Nivi's ID is getting reflected over here. So the code is working perfectly fine. Now if I want to convey something to Nilu using Nivi's ID, let's see whether it will be possible for me to do that or not. Hi Nilu, how are you doing? Okay, let's set this welcome button. Sorry, not welcome. You need to hit this image button. Just a second, I think I have made a little mistake. I need to delete all the tables again, and I'm going to run this app one more time. Okay, I'm going to run this app one more time. So here I am going to upload a pic first. This is the one that I am selecting, nevi@gmail.com, and nevi123 is the password I'm giving.
Your account has been successfully created.
Account has been successfully created. So the ID and the this picture is getting reflected over here. Let's create one more profile on this platform. I'm creating this one. Okay, let's use this ID. Okay, done with creating.
Your account has been successfully created.
Okay, let's create one more profile. Fine. This time I'm going to create my own profile. Okay, using my ID. I am selecting this pic for now. I don't have any other pic. Okay, let's select this one. Let's go for this one. So this is my ID. I am selecting this password. Let's hit this login button.
Your account has been successfully created.
Okay, so now there are 3 different accounts present on this app. Okay, let's set this drop down and see what's gonna happen. So my ID and Nilu's ID are getting reflected over here. Okay, fine. So everything is working perfectly fine. Now I'm going to use this Nivi's ID and will send a message to nilu@gmail.com. Hi mom, how are you? Fine, let's set this image button and see what's gonna happen.
You successfully sent your message.
Okay, so
you successfully sent your message.
Fine. Now let's select Nivi's ID from here and let's see whether Nilu will be able to receive the message sent by Nivi or not. So we need to hit this.
You successfully sent your message.
Welcome button, right?
Hi mom. How are you?
Okay, so we were able to hear the message in the form of speech, right? Now if Nivi, let's see whether Nilu will be able to send a message to Nivi or not. So for that we need to type the message over here first. Hi Nivi, I am good. how about you? Okay, let's hit this image button for sending this message.
You successfully sent your message.
Okay, so Neelu successfully sent the message to Nivi. Let's see whether Nivi will be able to receive the message on her respective panel or not in the form of speech, right? Let's hit this welcome button over here.
Hi Nivi. I am good. How about you?
Okay, so Nivi is able to receive the message. Now I'm going to send a message to Nivi again using Nivi's ID. Mom, did you saw my school bag? Okay, so this is a message which now Nivi is going to send to Neelu. Let's hit this image button over here.
You successfully sent your message.
Okay, so Nivi has successfully sent the message to neelu@gmail.com. Let's see whether she will be able to receive the message from Nivi or not. As you can see, in this drop down, already Nivi's ID is selected by default. Let's hit this welcome button to receive the message sent by Nivi.
Hi Mom. How are you? Mom, did you saw my school bag?
So, did you notice something? The message which Nivi sent earlier, we were here able to hear that too, but we don't want that to happen. Now, why is it happening? We have to check the code again. Let's see what are we missing. Let's come on this coding panel. Okay, and now I'm going to tell you something very interesting. See why we are able to hear both the messages, just because we have placed this code inside this for loop. So this for loop over here is going to check all the records, okay, for every whenever uh, you will run this for loop, it is going to check all the records which are there in this message name table. So right now uh, there are two messages. One is this one and the second one is this one, which is sent by Nivi to Neelu. Okay, so this for loop is going to read both these rows, because for both these rows this if loop, the condition which we have mentioned in this if loop is true, and it is going to convert everything in the form of speech, and we will be able to hear both the message and both the messages, or you can say all the messages which Nivi is going to send to Neelu. Okay, now how can we get rid of that thing? We can get rid of this thing just by eliminating this code from here and placing it just after this point where this for loop is ending. Now, you know what is going to happen? Once the compiler is done with executing this for loop, it is going to convert this message for us in the form of speech. So it is going to run this code only once. It will not run this code more than once. Fine. First thing is that. Now, can you guys tell me what will be the value of I once the compiler is done with executing this for loop completely? Can you guys guess that? See, the value of I is starting from 0. Okay, and it is less than records.length. Fine. So if you will place I over here, what will happen? I means, see, there are right now 5 records present in this table. Okay, so if you are placing I over here, it is not going to give you this thing. It is not going to fetch this message which Nivi has sent to Neelu recently. Instead of that, it is going to pull the message which is present on the 6th row, right? Because we have defined a condition over here, I is smaller than records.length. So the value of I is going to be always smaller than a records dot length. And what is records dot length? It is the number of rows which are present in this message named table. Fine, it is the number of, it is going to give you, records dot length is going to give you the number of rows which are there in this message named table. Now if you want to read this message which is there present on this fifth row, how can you do that? Is it possible for you to do that or not? Let's see, can we do that or not? So if you want to read that recently sent message, so the best way of doing it is that, see, this is, if this condition will be true, then whatever we are going to mention over here, it will get executed. Fine. Now if there are more than 2 or 3 or 5 users who are using this app at the same time, and they are communicating with each other their things, so how can we make this app capable enough so that the user can hear the message only which are sent to him, means only for the messages for which he is, his name, his ID is there in this receiver's part, and I would like him to hear only the message which is sent to him recently. I don't want him to hear the previous messages, okay, in the form of speech. So how can we make it possible? That's what we have to think about. Okay, so if there are, suppose this message and this message, and if we want to convert only this message in the form of speech, how can we make it possible? How can we make it happen? So for doing that, we can okay, records I dot sender, records I dot receiver. Fine. This is perfectly fine. Now if I will records I, okay, if I'm placing it inside this if loop, so what is happening, I am able to hear all the messages sent by the sender, but I don't want that to happen. So in that case, what are the changes that we can do over here in this if loop, or else in this code, you can say? We can, how about if we'll put this outside this for loop, and if I will eliminate this whole thing from here, is it going to work or not? Let's check it out. And besides that, once the compiler is done with executing this for loop, what will be the value of I? That is also what we have to check. See, the value of I is starting from 0, because the index number of this first row is 0. The ID of this first row is 1, but the index number is 0, and the length of this table is equal to 5. Why? Because the total number of records which are present in this table are 5. The total number of rows is equals to 5 right now. Fine. So this loop is going to run from 0 to 5 minus 1, because I is smaller than records.length. So it is going to run from 0 to 4. Okay. Once the compiler is done with executing this whole thing, the value of I will become 5, because I plus plus is there in this last part of this for loop. So it is going to increment the value of I by 1, and finally the value of I will become 5. Now if you will put 5 over here, records 5 dot message, so it means that it is going to convert the message which is present on the 6th row, because 5 is the index number. There is no row which has 5 as an index number, right? The index number of this first row is 0. Remember this thing, index number is index number of any row is id minus 1. So the id of this row is equal to 1. So the index number of this row is 0. Now the index number of this second row is 2 minus 1. That is again 1. Index number of this row is 3 minus 1. That is 2. So there is no row with index number 5, right? But there is a row with index number 4. This is the one which we would like to, the message part of which we would like to convert into speech form. So how can we fetch this message? What we can do, we can write down I minus 1 in place of 5. Now this is going to give you the correct output. Let me just show it to you practically. I'm deleting all the records first from this users named table. Okay, let's delete the whole table. Fine. Let's make use of the same link. And now I'm going to access this on 3 different browsers again. So this one is going to be the first browser. Okay, besides that, we haven't mentioned any condition. So it is going to give us fine. Now we can mention a condition over here. The sender should be this person, right? Just a second. Let me do this thing. I minus 1. I'm making it, and we have these two conditions. We need to check these two conditions also, right? So how can we check these two conditions? What we can do, we can copy this whole thing, records, or the first thing that we have to match is this sender's part, and the second thing is this receiver's part. So we can cut this whole thing from here, and we can place it just after the point where this for loop is ending. And let's replace all the i's with I minus 1 now. Okay, I'm replacing all the i's with I minus 1, and I'm going to place this whole code inside this if loop. I think this is going to give us the correct output now. Let's check it out. So now I'm going to run this app again on 3 different browsers for testing it properly. Okay, let's upload 3 profiles first on this platform. So the first thing that we have to do for creating the first profile is to upload a photograph. We need to upload a photograph first. So I'm going to make use of this photo select button for doing the same. And don't forget to like and share this lecture, and also please do share this video in your groups. Don't forget to subscribe the channel, because it is going to make this video more popular and make all the videos of my channel more popular. This way you're definitely helping me in helping these videos actually to reach to the maximum number of people. So I'm going to create the first profile with the same ID, my daughter's ID, nevi@gmail.com. And
Your
okay,
account has been successfully created.
account has been successfully created. I'm on this panel, screen 3. Okay, the logo is getting reflected here over here, and this ID is also getting reflected over here. Now let's upload the second profile. So for that we need to upload the pic first. Okay, so let's select a pic from here. I'm selecting this one, and I'm going to make use of the same ID. Okay, fine.
Your account has been successfully created.
So Nilu's account has also been successfully created on this platform. Now I'm going to select a profile pic for this third profile, which I'm creating on this third device over here. I've already clicked on this photo select button. Maybe my computer computer is a little bit slow. That is the reason it's taking some time to reach to that desktop. And do let me know in the comment section how whether you liked this video or not. Okay, and if you have any suggestions, if you have any questions, you guys are most welcome to reach me out through the comment section. So I'm going to select this pic for my own profile. And or 1, 2, 3.
Your account has been successfully
So the third
created.
account has also been successfully created, and as you can see, the email ID is getting reflected over here and the profile pic is getting reflected over here. Let's now select Nilu's ID on this, from this option section of the drop down on this Nivi's panel. So for that we need to hit this drop down first, right? Okay, I'm selecting Nilu's ID and here I go. Hi mom, where is my school bag? Let's hit this image button over here for sending this message to Nilu.
You successfully sent your
Okay,
message.
so Nivi has successfully sent the message to Nilu. Let's hit this drop down and select Nivi's ID from this drop down, and here I go.
Hi mom. Where is my school bag?
Okay, so Nilu is able to receive the message sent by Nivi. Let's type one more message and send it through this Nivi's ID to Nilu. Also, let me know my school timings. Fine. Also, please let me know. Chalo. Let's set this image button over here.
You successfully sent your message.
Okay, let's now see whether Nilu will be able to receive this recently sent message, or will she be receiving both the messages sent by Nivi. Let's check it out. So we need to hit this welcome button.
Also, please let me know my school timings.
Okay, so we have only heard that recently sent message, right? So this app is now working perfect. I'm going to send a message to Gaurav using Nilu's ID now. Hi sir, how are you doing? Okay, let's set this image button over here.
You successfully sent your message.
So if Gaurav want to receive the message sent by Nilu, so he need to select Nilu's ID from here first. Okay, and let's hit this welcome button and see what's gonna happen. Okay, I think there is some issue with the speakers. That is the reason you're not able to hear the message, but this app is working absolutely fine. And as you can see, these tables have got created over here. So there are only two tables which I have made use of. One with the name users. Okay, let me just close these browsers. Maybe because of that it is working a little bit slow. Yeah, so if you'll come on this data browser section, you will be able to see only two tables. So such a beautiful table, and I have used only two tables for making this beautiful app, right? Just give it a try. In case you have any issue, you can reach me. You're most welcome to reach me out through the comment section. fine. Hope you guys enjoyed this one a lot, and I do hope that you will like and share this video too in your groups, so that more and more students can come and join the channel and enjoy these free online coding classes. If you have any issue, you guys are most welcome to ask me the same right now. Okay, so I'm ending this lecture now. Thank you very much. God bless you all and have a great day. Bye bye.